services, they meet with other public bodies, they meet with third sector organisations and the private sector to talk through disability equality projects, policies and other areas that these organisations are working on to ensure that disabled voices are heard in the planning and in the delivery of a really, really wide range of projects. For example, the council at the moment is working on its housing strategy, renewing that, and colleagues from the Disability Hub will be giving their views to colleagues in housing on how they can ensure that disabled people are fully represented in that conversation and also that their voices are heard. So, I mentioned that the Disability Hub was one of a range of equality hubs. We're really keen on intersectional working in our equality hubs. They all come together under an umbrella called the Equality Assembly. We recognise that people don't live their lives in little boxes or in silos, and so we work closely with the other hubs who work on our culturally diverse agenda, who work on our women's and girls agenda, who work with faith communities, who work with the LGBT community, older people and younger people. And we recognise that disabled people are everywhere and are right across our city geographically, but also part of every single community in the city. And it's really important that we look at disability in the widest possible way. You may have seen that the government recently launched its National Disability Strategy. We're still working our way through that as a disability hub, looking at what the government is saying its priorities are, and we really want to understand what difference that's going to make for disabled people here in Leeds, and what we can do as a disability hub, as a council, with all our partners to ensure that the aims and the ambitions of that disability strategy are actually met. I just want to recognise the really challenging period that we've been through as a disability hub. Like many people and many organisations, we've had to adapt in terms of how we can sort of engage, overcoming many barriers to make sure that people can still be included, and we're still on that journey. We've learned an awful lot, and it's been, for the most part, despite the challenges, a really positive experience of still being able to bring people together. I think all of our members really miss being able to regularly be together in person, but we remain hopeful that that's going to improve in the future, so we all have our fingers crossed for that. I really want to thank all the members of the Disability Hub for everything that they do. They give up their time, a lot of time, to give their views, to seek to represent the views of disabled people right across the city, and it's so important that we hear their voices. So, thank you all, and I hope the rest of today is a fantastic success and people really enjoy the rest of the event.
Shall I turn our video off? Will it come back on alright after?
So Geoff, hi. I'm just on live and I wanted to kind of just ask you some questions. So tell us, what's the importance of International Day of Disabled People?
Excuse me for a second.
No problem.
Well, for me it's about two things. Celebrating disabled people, because I don't think we do that enough as a society, so it's really, really important to recognise that disabled people make up a huge proportion of the population. They are, as I mentioned, in every part of the city, in every community, and they contribute hugely to the life of our city. But, and this is the but, we also need to recognise the huge barriers disabled people still face. We've had really strong disability laws in place since the 90s, but we know that disabled people still don't have equality. And I think it's really important that we say that we're open and we're honest about it, and we recognise those barriers and challenges, because alongside that celebration, I think we do need to say we've got more work to do, and we all need to work together on that.
There's something you talked about, intersectionality, and we're going to walk and talk because I can see us getting a little bit busy here. We talk about intersectionality and we talk about the fact that there are LGBT plus communities involved in this space, there are people of colour involved in this space. What do you think some of the barriers are around that for them?
I think for anyone who works in that intersectional way and has those multiple barriers, I think we have to recognise that it becomes a cumulative effect because it's your daily experience. If you're experiencing disability discrimination and sexism, or disability discrimination and racism, if you're experiencing homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, and also disability discrimination, then that has a big impact on you. And I think there's a lot of strength there if you are engaging with both of those communities, because there's some amazing networks that are really powerful. But what I love is the way that you particularly see really strong representation from LGBT communities, for example, around the disability equality agenda. I think because people recognise the impact of discrimination, and so they're prepared to step up, and it's always really heartening. I think there are different issues for disabled people in different parts of the city, whether you are more affluent or less affluent, whether you come from certain communities where there may be some cultural barriers around disability, and we have to be open and honest about that and hold conversations around it and adapt our approach, because you can't have a nice one-size-fits-all approach to equality or disability equality. You have to go in and talk to communities about what their understanding and what their needs are particularly.
How do we build allyship from your own point of view when it comes to the everyday person hearing this and saying, okay, I want to be more of a better ally to the disabled community? What would you advise?
I think there's some really obvious stuff like, allies training. I've seen some really, really fantastic allies training, and we've done some good allies training in the council for our colleagues who can gain a better understanding of those barriers and those challenges. You'll all be familiar with things like living libraries, and for me, the benefit of that is that you're listening to someone's real life experiences. I always say in equality and diversity, and I've worked in this field a long time, is it's a lot harder to discriminate against someone who is right in front of you, whose kids are at the same school as yours, who are over the garden fence, who you are seeing in your workplace. It's a lot harder, I think, if you get to know them on a personal level, and it's those conversations and recognising what we have in common always outweighs the barriers and the differences and the challenges.
Thank you so much. And if people want to get involved, where can they go to? Is there a social media platform that they can go and a hashtag they can use?
Yes. So if you look up the Disability Hub or Leeds Disability Hub, it will come up. If you want to be involved in our mailing list, where you get lots of updates on the work that we're doing, meetings we're having, etc., then if people want to email us, it's leedsdisability@leeds.gov.uk.
Thank you so much. Thank you.